from Nashville, Tennessee. It's time for another episode of Tips, Tactics, and Tools for a Safer Tomorrow, where all things related to your safety and security are discussed, detailed, and delivered to you. You may leave with a tip that saves you money or a tactic that saves your life. So here are your hosts, owner and founder of Defense Systems, Brink Fidler, and owner and operator of Herring Technology, Tom Herring.
Hey guys, welcome to this edition of Tips, Tactics, and Tools for a Safer Tomorrow. My name is Brink Fidler, owner and founder of Defense Systems. I would say with me as always, my co-host Tom Herring. However, Tom had some last minute business to attend to out of town. And so Adam and I are taking this one without Tom today. With me today is Adam McIntyre, which is our Director of Training at Defense Systems. Former Special Operations practitioner for the United States Army. He spent 20 years in that and has done a lot in his career, 15 of that in Special Operations, 14 combat deployments, all the things. So sadly, today what we're going to talk about and break down a little bit is the recent shooting of one Charlie Kirk, and we want to talk about some of the details behind the event, the security, the aftermath, and you know, it's still obviously pretty raw, and a lot of people are still in a lot of shock, but we have gotten a lot of questions in and around this assassination from a security perspective, considering what we do for a living. So we wanted to kind of break down some of the pros and cons of the security of the event and kind of what expectations are based on known and unknown threats and things like that, so that we're setting a reasonable expectation of what we're asking security personnel and law enforcement personnel to deliver. So, Adam, based on what you just saw initially, which if you guys don't kind of know the details, I guess I better hit that real quick. Just that a shooter was able to get to a rooftop with a high-powered rifle, magnified optic, i.e. a scope. Basically sounds like a deer hunting rifle to me. And was able to fire a shot and hit and kill Charlie Kirk from a distance of less than 200 yards while he was on a college campus doing one of his events. So based on the initial takeaway from, it's been a few days now that we've seen, there's a lot of video, there's a lot of that's come out from law enforcement, but based on what you've seen, give us your kind of 30,000 foot view from a security perspective about the venue and the event.
Yeah, so one thing with the security thing, understandably, sitting here about a week later, armchair quarterbacking, I don't know all the facts around their security element, detail, composition, disposition that day. Obviously, when the shot was taken and Charlie did go down, you saw a very quick reaction from, I'll say, his local security force. So maybe 5 guys or so, and they got to him very quickly, as they're supposed to. In that aspect, they crush it. The question I raised, and again, it's not necessarily to this event. I mean, I could go back to Trump's assassination attempt and kind of raise a question there, is even in security with human domain, we are going to provide layers. So in this instance, again, I'm not criticizing their security standpoint, but how far out was their exterior layer? Was it out towards the end of the crowd? And granted, they want to be welcoming and open. All these college kids to come there and debate and do what they do. But in this day and age, and it's just kind of moving forward, of if you're hosting events or anything like this, even if you have one person to the speaker, that's the personal security detail that's 5 feet away that is going to jump on them like, well, hey, what does it look like 100 feet out? You need somebody else there, because that's a different set of eyes. They're going to have a different vantage point. What can they see? Different people, different angles. And one thing that we've seen in this Charlie Kirk assassination and the Trump assassination is they're both taking the high ground. And that's something, you go back to any war, any conflict, any battle, the high ground always wins. So what does the high ground look like now? I mean, we're not sitting on rooftops, which I'm not saying, we might not have the personnel to do that. We might not have the equipment to do that. But something we're talking about off air even is utilizing drones. All right, it's a force multiplier. I can put a drone 200, 300 feet in the air. I can zoom in on people. I can fly it around quicker than I can run there. You can fly it around a campus. Perfect world, I'd have a team. And they'd be flying drones. They'd be flying circles, picking up everything at the entry points, coming into the campus or facility or whatever. But again, kudos to the team. They did their job reacting to him very, very quickly. Unfortunately, just obviously they he bled out very quickly. So
yeah, single shot, extremely fatal. You and I were together when all this broke and looking at the video together, and both said out loud that that's not survivable based on what we saw. And I agree with you on his personal security detail. He was known, from what I understand, to have about a 6-person team that assigned to him, just because what he did and the controversial nature of him being outspoken. And then my understanding is from the law enforcement chief there on the campus, I think they had a total of 6 officers assigned to the event as well. So in total, you're talking probably 12 personnel. I'm fairly certain that this event, like all his events, were just open venue. It basically looked like kind of like a quad, right, between a bunch of buildings. Like anybody could just walk in, walk out, because it's still an operating college campus, right? I got asked about, securing those buildings to prevent snipers, and the response I gave was, well, understand this is still a functioning college campus. Like, so it's not like we're talking about the president, right, where Secret Service is going to come in with a whole team and do an advance, and you're going to have to shut those buildings down completely, and they're going to have to ensure that every one of those rooms that has a window that faces that, you know what I'm saying? Like, we can't do that. That can't be. It's not the expectation for, or wasn't prior to this assassination at a Charlie Kirk event. I think you and I also talked off air about, I think, most of their concerns prior to this, and justifiably, just being honest, was somebody in the crowd, like getting PO'd or producing a weapon or whatever else. So that it makes more sense that he has a robust personal security detail around him to be constantly looking for that. And from what I've seen, from this video and a few others now that I've gone back and watched, those guys are doing a good job. I mean, they're close, they're scanning, they're looking, they're not screwing around on their phones. I mean, they're doing their job
100%.
And if that's the threat, or that's where we feel like the most likely threat is, then that's where you're going to focus. And then, I mean, did that end up being a failure? Sure, but prior to this, can we really say that it's a failure? I mean, they're probably going with the most up-to-date and robust intelligence they had, that's the threat this wasn't a thing, man. This wasn't a sniper on a rooftop at a college campus at a Charlie Kirk event was not a thing. It was not. I mean, obviously, in light of this in Butler, Pennsylvania, to your point, it is. I mean, a high ground is certainly a thing now, and I don't think there will ever be another politically charged, controversial event that the high ground is not looked at and hopefully dominated by the good guys. But prior to this, it wasn't, except for Trump. And unfortunately, you and I both know, in the arena of security, law enforcement, military, whatever, we don't get meaningful change until somebody dies. And hopefully this will produce meaningful change.
Yeah, and going back to your point too, of only having 6 people internally for his security and 6 people from the campus, like if you do the ratio, they got 1 security person to, again, I don't know how many people were there today. Let's just say 1 to 100. That's a lot. So 1 security person is aligned for 100 people that are attending that event.
I think it was like 3,000. So
even more. Like that's a lot of people when you look at that ratio. But you got what you got, and that's all he had. He wasn't the president, like you said. He didn't have 100 million person security detail with airplanes, all the shebang. So I think they did with what they had, and the most likely course of action, most threatening thing, or most probable thing to happen was somebody didn't like what they're debating about. So I'm going to run up towards you and try to fight you or something. So that's primarily what they're there for, something, 25 meters or in type range, somebody with a handgun that's at the podium or something, I'm sure. But, I think we have to look at these events, and now we had 2 in, a year's time or whatever, that rifles are a thing. Rifles are being brought to a lot of fights. So when we're planning for these, even if you don't have the manning to man the rooftops and everything, just has to be consideration. Even in the military, when we stopped in our trucks on the side of the road, we do something called 5s and 25s. So we're looking for improvised explosive devices on the ground. So as soon as I step out, like, all right, I'm looking outside the truck. I'm not going to step on something within 5 meters. And then I'm also going to look 25 meters out.
Got it.
Make sure there's something not out there that's hazardous or a near ambush or whatever. So I think just, and again, I'm not saying that they didn't do this, so please don't take that the wrong way. Just even if you are near security detail and, hey, immediate range is, 20 meters with my person that I'm protecting here, we still need to be on the lookout, scanning 100, 200, 300 yards out, just for that consideration. Just, again, lesson learned from these events, because what we can't have happen here is this continue to be the pattern, and the good guys need to get ahead of it. And we need to, plan for these events, and how are we going to do this differently if we only have 3 guys? Again, you got what you got, but how are we going to force multiply this? Are we going to use drones? Are we going to use, hey man, I'm going to set up a fake person over here on another roof. I'll build a little scarecrow guy and put him in a chair, but people are going to think he's a guy. I don't know what it is, but you got to do what you got to do with your constraints of 3, 4, 5 people. But man, bullets can reach out and touch you from a far distance. And granted, his was only 140 yards away, so about a football field and a half away, which wasn't that far. But we have to consider this. 300 yards out, even with that rifle, fairly easy shot. So
yeah, with very little training or experience. When we talked about that off air too. With me now, I think with most people in the industry now, if there's 3 of us, 2 of us are on the principal and 1 of us on high ground, because there's so many advantages to that too, right? Being able to see more of the crowd, being able to see other elevated platforms and what the problem is there. If I'm a security detail on the ground and I'm part of the 6-man team around him or whatever it ends up being, we also don't know how much exposure the gunman gave us, right, from a silhouette perspective, if he's elevated already. You got to think about how little of him has to come above the horizon of that, right, for us to be able to pick that out when we don't know is the answer. And maybe there turns out to be some footage that shows us that. But, because you've been to sniper school, and I've never been, but it wouldn't take you, not much of you would have to be shown to the detail or even to the principal for very long. Nobody saw. It doesn't appear that anybody there saw him until the shot was fired and they looked up and he was running away.
Yeah, and that's the only video I think I've seen. And after the first 24 hours, I stayed off social media just for obvious reasons, but. I saw the video where somebody was inside. I think it had been behind Charlie's location, behind and to the left, and the shot was taken. You see everybody get down, and then you see the shooter running across the rooftop. Black clothing. He could have easily displayed himself if it was a nice day out and you got a blue and white sky wearing black clothes. Just something to look for, but. When he crawled up to the position to take the shot, he didn't need to be there long.
No.
It could have been 5-7 seconds, target acquisition, take a breath, and take the shot. It didn't take long. I'm pretty falling under assumptions here. He knew, obviously, he had somewhat of a plan. So he knew exactly where he was going to go, where the stage was going to be, where the tent was. So he knew what he needed to do. He didn't need to expose himself long. I doubt he was thorough with wind calls and waiting for the wind to die down or anything like that. I know there's a lot of speculation out there about spotters in the crowd, and I've seen different videos about the guy checked his phone. That's what had him shooting. It's like, well, everyone's checking their phone out there, man.
Oh, then the hand signal stuff, and
yeah. You just need to be on the lookout. I can't. Again, 6 people is not a lot, and I'm not even sure if Charlie wanted probably more there. He wanted open conversation. I don't think he wanted to show a show of force, of a mass security force, of like, hey, we're here to intimidate you or anything like that. I think it was just, hey, I want to conversate. So I just have my local security force, and I'm okay with that. So
yeah, one thing about him, he always wanted an open dialogue, and every experience I have, which has all been video, but it was all respectful dialogue, even if he disagreed with you. And we're not going to dive off into the politics of all of it, but let's talk about you brought up the camera angle you saw behind him that looked like it is inside a building of some sort. Let's talk about the response of people there in the crowd, and because I've seen different ones, and so there's one group of students in particular that I was pretty impressed with. Shot went off. They got down, which I get the initial, okay, that's a rifle shot. Okay, somebody's down, just like in Butler, PA, right? But then very quickly, this group of girls got up and moved, and they were gone. They did not waste any time. They didn't stay there. They weren't looking around to see what was happening next. I mean, they said, get down, and then they weren't down long, and they got up and evaded. I mean, what we preach on, that was great. And then some other ones you see are just sitting there trying to figure out what's happening. And then you got the other ones in the building behind where he's down that are just standing there filming like there's nothing happening.
That guy didn't flinch.
No.
It almost like it was on a tripod just moving along.
Yeah.
Didn't flinch, just kept shooting. And then when he gets to the end, so he's scanning from left to right, he gets to the right, there's another gentleman. He just walked up to the window, like hands in his pocket, just looking out as if he was looking at a beautiful day outside.
Yeah.
But he just saw, and I understand his brain is trying to process something that is not normal right now, and what and why is going on, and he's falling into normalcy bias of, well, I'm being normal right now.
Yeah.
And it is not a normal day at this point, and it's going to take everyone's brain's going to function differently during this. It might be 2 seconds, 5, 10, 15, 20. Could be a minute. Who knows? But a lot of people, you look even a minute into some of these videos where, like, Charlie Kirk was shot, and he's already been taken away, and there's still a lot of people in what I would call the X or the kill zone, whatever you want to call it. It's like something threatening, something bad just happened right here. Remove yourself from the situation. Get out of there. At this point, if you didn't identify an exit or two, hey, running left or right from, if you're looking at the stage at this point, is better than just sitting there. Get out of there. You might hit a roadblock. Well, then figure it out when you get there. Like, go left or right when you get there. But a lot of people just stay there.
Well, let's hit on that. I mean, I know we preach on it all the time in training, but, if you hadn't found an exit or two, I mean, that's something we preach very hard on. But if you're going to go to an event like this, any kind of event, I don't care if it's a carnival, venue like this, politics, concert, it doesn't matter. I mean, one thing you can do ahead of time is locate a few exits based on where you're going to be. And if you go ahead and do that, you're planting a seed in something called your primitive brain. And then if you need to evade in the moment, then you'll automatically go. Your primitive brain will actually take you to whichever one is safest for you in the moment, if you'll give it options. But if you don't, then you fall victim to tunnel vision and all the things that we see happen, and you don't know what else to do, and therefore you don't get off the X and all the things. I think that, go back to the guy in the building behind him, I think what happens there, and this is me assuming, but they're desensitized to what's happening in front of them because they're inside of another building. So it's not happening to me. I'm watching it happen through this window down there, but it's not happening to me. So, like, I don't hear it. I don't see it. I'm just kind of observing it, and I don't think their brains are processing that what just happened. Not only that the threat was on basically across the quad or whatever that thing was from them, so they're just as susceptible to gunfire as, to your point earlier, we get to play Monday morning quarterback now and armchair this thing, but we're going to, and we should. Let's be real. We should. In a respectful way, but we should. We should always do a debrief. Always, right? Yeah. I know you believe in them. I believe in them. Back brief, debrief, all of it, because we need to get better. But I think that's probably what happened to the people in the building. Is that normalcy bias you mentioned before sets in because they're desensitized and they don't get the stimulus. They're not getting any of that stimulus, like, except seeing basically what's happening in front of them, and still trying to figure that out. But a lot of people, not just in the kill zone, but other places too, froze and didn't know what to do. And I think, of course, a lot of that goes back to a lack of training. Let's be real. Like, a lot of people we talk to have no idea what to do in an emergency situation because their brains just aren't wired like ours, and kind of thank God, right? Let's be real. Like, the world would be a different place if everybody was walking around with the knowledge and stuff that we have. It would not be as pleasant of a place to live, obviously. You sacrifice a lot of things when you talk about living in a free country and having the freedom to move about and operate and have rallies and all the things. And so some of that, you give up some security with that freedom a little bit. But that's just the nature of the beast. But I think that the lack of just simple awareness training for most kids at that age, high school and college, is severely lacking. But we need to do better as a society about that. And I won't get into who, where, and all that, but we're in conversations with some large higher education places right now, to do more in those arenas because the people there don't have knowledge. And we're not wizards, folks. We don't claim to be at all. We've just taken data, facts, research, and battlefield tactics and packaged it for everyday people to help people understand it and how best to respond based on bad things happening without scaring the crap out of people. And I think that we need to do. I mean, obviously, I started this company. I firmly believe in the training aspect and what the results are from it. But we need to do a better job as a society of embracing it too. And pushing the message out. And even as parents, like which I am and you are, if you're not talking to your kids about where to go if something bad happens, I mean, as early as you feel comfortable talking to them about it, because I know every kid's different. My daughter, for example, is a very young 17. So, like, I didn't introduce her to a lot of this stuff until, I guess, later than maybe most people would. People find that shocking because I'm Mr. Active Shooter, whatever, but I knew what she could handle, what she couldn't, what her brain could process, and what she couldn't. But once your kids are old enough to understand it, you need to be talking to them, and you need to give them a little bit of education about, go to these events, do these things, but do these additional things before you go, so that if something bad does happen, you're at least prepared. And obviously the medical side of the house we preach on, but as soon as your kids are old enough, get them some medical pre-hospital training. It's not that difficult. Go to a Stop the Bleed class, whatever, reach out to us, whatever that looks like. I don't know, but do more to help prepare the next generation, I guess, without turning them into a bunch of paranoid people.
No, and the things that you can do even before arriving, at the college campus, let's say, or an arena, concert, you say it, you name it, like these things that we're talking about take maybe a minute to do, maybe 2 minutes. You can do some recon on Google Maps, Apple Maps of alternate exits. If hey, if I'm going to exit here, am I going to hit a fence that allows me not to be able to evade? All right, and then when you get on the ground, confirm that. Like, all right, yeah, there is an exit there. There was a construction since the last time this Google Maps was updated or whatever. And kind of going on that too is the locational awareness. So we hit it on training: north, south, east, west. Know your cardinal directions. There is a vast difference between information and intelligence. So in this instance, I'll talk about Charlie Kirk's situation. After that shot was taken, if you call 911 immediately and say, hey, there was somebody that was shot, there was somebody shooting with a gun, that's information. Now, if you say, hey, their gunman and the shot came from the south side of campus, or something a little additional piece of the pie that can navigate or direct first responders in the direction of that assailant, then, hey, now we're turning it into intelligence, something that's actionable. So we want to get as much intelligence as possible. So even if you know your cardinal directions when you arrive to, again, a concert, and you understand, you're in a stadium, north, south, east, and west, and something bad happens on the east side of the stadium, well, at least when you call 911, like, hey, on the east side of the stadium, we have gunfire. Well, hey, man, that's going to get law enforcement there a lot quicker on that side of campus or that side of the stadium opposed to the west side where the main entrance is. And then it takes them an additional 4 minutes to drive or run over there. So, because we want to increase the law enforcement time, or not decrease the time, but increase their response and how fast they actually get there. So just, again, just knowing your cardinal directions. And for everyone that's a 18, 19-year-old kid, or your kid's about to go to college, download the Compass app. I use it every day in training just to see which way north is before we start.
He does that for me most of the time, thank God, because I always forget. And then I have a text from Adam when I'm getting ready to ask the audience which way is north, and I don't even know myself. Because we go so many places, I don't, but I can tell you which way it is at home and the places I spend a lot of time, because that is important. And just so the audience understands, the reason we got to know that is first responders know that. You're trained as a first responder. And let me hit on first responder too. Let's be real. The people at the event are the first responders. I mean, law enforcement and EMS and fire are technically second responders, but regardless, those guys and gals know their whole town, north, south, east, and west, and so they can get to places a lot quicker if you give them that information ahead of time, or while you're calling in, to help kind of minimize the gap in response time and, again, mitigate damage. So 100%. Just get your kids understanding the importance of it, know it. And again, they don't have to know it everywhere they go, but that would be great. But that's also not normal or reasonable that the kids are going to do that. I mean, it's just not feasible. But knowing where you are, knowing the numerical address of where you are, can be helpful, especially if it's somewhere you go, pretty frequently. And if it's not, then it's okay too. Locational awareness, calling out, hey, whatever the name of that venue was or event where Charlie Kirk was shot was, if you can say that that's where you are, and you just, on the south side, west side of the quad, you just saw a man in black running across the rooftop, headed in a westbound direction, that gives them a ton to go on versus, to your point, just, there are shots fired here. Okay, that's pretty broad. The other thing I want to hit on before we wrap this, and understand why it happens. That's not lost on me, but a lot of people shared the video very quickly across social media. You and I and the team saw it very quickly. We were out of town training another organization, and once we saw it, assuming it was real, which it turned out to be, we knew that the injury, based on the trauma that we saw and all the stuff that went along with it, that it was not survivable. But understand the repeated sharing of stuff like that on social media is a double-edged sword. Yes, getting information out there to the public is important. I don't disagree with that at all. But it's also doing a disservice to our young people that's coming across their feed and their friends are sharing it and the stuff they don't need to see. My daughter's 17. And she asked me about it, and I said, don't watch it. Like, you don't. I think you said that about your wife, and she hadn't seen it. It's horrific. I mean, it's terrible. But it also goes back to the same reason that we as a company, not a single one of us ever name any of these people. I won't name them. I won't name the shooters. I'll never do it, and I never have. It doesn't matter what I'm talking about, what I'm being interviewed about, what I'm speaking about, what we're training on. I just won't name them. I always call them the shooter, because to me that's all they are, and they don't deserve the notoriety that we're going to give them. But also, we really don't know what all this is doing to the next generation either. We don't really know. I mean, I know my kids and yours too are probably just used to what we call intruder drills and all those sorts of things, and it doesn't traumatize them like a lot of people think it does. I mean, it's just what they've grown up with because it's so normal now. But I think we got to do a better job, and it starts at home, right? It starts with the parents on talking to our kids about what's out there, talk about the importance of not sharing stuff like that and kind of what that goes to, and then also the importance of not giving these people any notoriety.
No, and that's giving them notoriety. When we went down to Parkland, Florida, about a year and a half ago now, I remember one of the things that Zach was telling us, that when they went, when the brother of the shooter went to go talk to him for the first time, the very first question out of his mouth was, how many likes and comments do I have?
Yeah.
Because that's what he wants. He wants fame. He wants glory. And even the ones that, get neutralized, they fantasize about this beforehand, of how many people are going to talk about me. How many people, well, let's not give that to them. All right. Let's talk about the victims in a good way and remember them and honor them the way we should. But any notoriety and sharing their videos of somebody getting killed like that, doesn't need to happen. And especially it coming across the social media, that stuff is not made for the brain to see, especially at a young age. It is not good. It is not healthy. Because once you see it, you'll always remember it. And it's imprinting a bad signature on your brain. Even if you don't realize it, it might not be overt. It might be a very subconscious thought, but it's going to live with you for the rest of your life.
No doubt. And we didn't get that with you guys either. We talked about this before too, while we have this massive epidemic of suicide among our veteran community. I mean, you say that the brain's not meant to see that at that age. It's not really meant to see that, period, or not repeatedly. I mean, it's just not. I mean, all the studies that have been done on you guys and on law enforcement and all the traumatic crap. I mean, it's just the human brain can only take so much of that. And the first thing I came to my mind very quickly was that there's no doubt in my mind, somehow, some way, eventually, unfortunately, Charlie's kids are probably going to see that video one day, and that shreds my soul, man. To think about.
And I talked about that at home. I was like, it's super unfortunate that it will always, you talk about the anniversaries, the year marks, 10-year, 20-year, they will have to relive that. And the video and the evidence is all out there, and they could hop on Twitter and or Instagram or whatever it is and come across, and that's super, super unfortunate. Yeah. Just really, really stings. So
Well, there's nothing else that's come out of this, and again, I'm not going to go way down the political aisle here, but you know, he was a believer, he was a Christian, he made no bones about that. He wasn't in your face with it like a lot of people think he was. He just would talk to you about it, and I think there's so many more people now that are familiar with Charlie and what his mission was and all those sorts of things. Controversial, if you want to call it that. I mean, okay, that's everybody's entitled to their own opinion. But there's more people exposed to some good in the world, right? Like, you know, like I truly believe he was trying to do good. He was always respectful, even if you don't disagree with him, or even if you don't agree with him. You know, I think he always tried to be. And so there's more people out there that know not only of him, and that's the political side, but let's pump the brakes there. How many more people know that somebody was executed for politics, and how lost we've become as a society, regardless of your views? Like, I think there's so many people on both sides, and I've been pretty impressed with that piece, that there are people on both sides of the spectrum that have come out and been like, okay, pump the brakes. Like, what the crap are we doing when we start executing each other for giving our opinion? Like, it just goes to how toxic things have become. But hopefully it's also been a wake-up call for a lot of people on both sides to say, you know, we need to calm the rhetoric a little bit here and be more open to actually having a dialogue with each other.
100%. I couldn't agree more.
I wish there was more of that, and maybe that's what will come out of this.
Does it? Hopefully, you know, moving forward, we see that across the nation at all levels. So from the top down and bottom back up. So
well, and hopefully also back to we're looking at elevated platforms now in a more serious way than we are just at an NFL game or a presidential visit or anything like that. They're an issue potentially, especially if it's a targeted attack or even if it's not. And we won't get into all that on this episode, but regardless, just hopefully that changes the game in a certain way. I know that you guys constantly in the GWAT, Global War on Terror, you guys constantly adjusted your tactics based on the enemy. And we as a society need to do the same thing. Not just the security side of the house. Society needs to do the same thing. Based on what we're seeing, we need to adjust and see what we can mitigate in the process and still live in a free country. So that's going to wrap it, though, as for this edition of Tips, Tactics, and Tools for a Safer Tomorrow. If you guys have show ideas, we'd love to hear from you. You can email us at info@tipstacticstools.com. I can never say that. I don't know what's wrong with me today. You can always email us at info@tipstacticstools.com. Also, by all means, if you enjoy the content you hear on this, we would love for you to leave us a review. Whether that's one word or several, whatever it is, we'd love to hear from you, and we appreciate you guys listening. That'll do it for today.